Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, very dramatic developments now over the last 24 to 48 hours in Minneapolis, which is clearly now the epicenter of an organized resistance against President Trump and his administration. In fact, Minneapolis mayor and Minnesota governor, Tampon Tim Walz, actually admitted in interviews yesterday that this has all been organized, that this was well-financed, well-organized, and that they were playing a key part in what is happening right now. And so, what have we been told by the Democratic Party media? And that's what it is now. It is a propaganda media, if you can even put, media is even the right term. It's propaganda for the Democratic Party. What have they been telling us about Alex Preddy, the man who was fatally shot recently, resisting arrest, obstructing ICE, interfering with an ICE operation? What have the Democrats and their allies in the so-called corporate media, what have they been telling us? That he was a peaceful protester, according to them, that he was a gentle ICU nurse, that he was the victim of the Gestapo, ICE agents in their brutal occupation of Minneapolis. No. That is another lie. And a lie now that the media has been caught red-handed peddling, as well as Walz and Fry and everyone else involved. Here is now what has just been exposed. According to footage first revealed by the BBC and now confirmed by numerous other media outlets, including, by the way, the family of Alex Preddy, who now say, yeah, no, that was him. 11 days prior to his being fatally shot, Alex Preddy was involved as part of a criminal conspiracy to interfere with and obstruct ICE in the midst of an operation. This was 11 days before. And what the video footage shows is that as ICE was trying to make arrests, he was part of an ICE watch network that surrounded ICE vehicles. And you can see Preddy, by the way, with his loaded gun around his waistband, first blocking vehicles, then telling them, forgive me, to go F themselves, repeatedly, F you, F you, F you, with the middle finger. He then spits on ICE agents. He then, as the vehicles try to drive off to proceed with their operation, he then starts kicking their taillights. And then he smashes their taillights. Then the ICE agents get out of the vehicle. They then tackle him to the ground, where apparently, according to Preddy, what he told some of his friends, that's where Preddy had a broken rib. So he breaks his rib in that altercation. Now, the agents decided not to arrest him. Frankly, they should have arrested him. If you want the honest truth, they should not have let him go. What you see caught on camera are criminal acts. Crime after crime after crime. He's resisting arrest. He's obstructing ICE, federal legitimate law enforcement operations. He is spitting on ICE agents. He is damaging federal property. He's just completely smashed up the taillight, violently kicking it with his leg. And I'll tell you what it shows. There's no denying this now. Alex Preddy, you watch this, you go, this is a wild man. What you see is a left-wing agitator, an anti-ICE agitator, and frankly, a psychopath, yelling, screaming, shouting, obscenities, kicking, destroying, obstructing, and the middle finger, F ICE, F you, even as he's being put on the ground. F you, go F yourself, F you. The man was unhinged. He was clearly unhinged. And he was part of a criminal conspiracy, a criminal network, an organized anti-ICE network who saw it as their mission to resist, interfere with, and obstruct federal law enforcement in the midst of conducting raids and operations, targeted operations, to arrest violent, criminal, illegal aliens. There's now no getting around it, which then begs the question. Okay? It begs the question. After you get a broken rib, after you're put on the ground, after destroying vehicles and federal property and having a violent confrontation with ICE agents, why the hell would you come back 11 days later? And I got to say this. I mentioned my experience when I visited the ancestral homeland, okay? When I visited Croatia in the summer. And I was on the bus, the double-decker bus, and I fell off the top of the double-decker bus and fell, rolled down the steps, and I shattered my left rib. I could barely breathe. I had to be in bed for a couple days. This guy has a broken rib. You know the kind of pain you have when you have a broken rib? You can barely breathe. And this lunatic comes back 11 days later? And he was lucky he wasn't arrested the first time? And then he comes back with an armed gun, a loaded gun, with 2 magazine clips loaded. And then he does the exact same thing. He obstructs an ICE operation. He then gets involved in the middle of ICE trying to arrest an anti-ICE agitator. He then himself is resisting arrest. He's then put on the ground. He's still resisting arrest. And then apparently he tried to reach for his gun, and they were yelling, gun, 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 and then they shot him. I'm sorry. The man's an idiot. The man is an idiot. I don't want anybody to ever be shot or killed in the United States of America. Please don't get me wrong. It's a tragedy. The man is dead. But my God, this is not who the media has been telling us for the last couple of weeks, and what has sparked the rioting and the mayhem, the havoc, the chaos, the bedlam that we have been seeing now in Minneapolis day after day after day. We have been lied to again by the Democrats and by the media. I want you to listen now. This is Alex Preddy 11 days before he's fatally shot. This is him violently confronting ICE. There's multiple ICE vehicles. They're clearly in the midst of a targeted operation. And there is a mob that's swarming around these vehicles. And he, in fact, is at the head of the mob. And there he is with his middle finger. Then he starts obstructing the vehicles. Then he starts spitting on ICE agents. Then, as they're about to leave, they don't do anything at this point. They just want to leave. They just want to go and finish their raid. He starts kicking the taillight violently until he just smashes it. And then the ICE agents get out of the vehicle and they're like, "Hey, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're destroying federal property, and you're interfering with us as we're trying to arrest some dangerous criminals. F you, F you, F you, F you." And then they put him to the ground. Several of them tackle him to the ground. That's where he allegedly breaks his rib. And then they're swarmed by a mob. And they're all giving them the middle finger. Tear gas is deployed. The agents were outnumbered by the mob. So you can tell they feared for their lives. And that's the reason why they let Preddy go. They realized if we arrest this guy on the spot, God knows what's going to happen to us. So they let him go. Roll cut 6, Mike.
Look at you!
Okay, by the way, all that swearing, that's all Preddy. Okay? That's all F ICE, F you, go F yourself. I mean, so what you see is, as I said, he's a psychopath. He's not, the way, it's unbelievable what the media has done. He's a gentle, kind, caring, compassionate nurse, this innocent bystander, and they shot him dead. He was a wild man. He was clearly a radical anti-ICE agitator. He was, I'm sorry, that's the act of a domestic terrorist. And a wild man. 617-266-6868. I want to go straight to the lines on this, to the wonderful audience, the phone lines. So if you want to jump on, trust me, now's the time to go. 617-266-6868. Have we now been lied to again? Again, and again by the Democrat Party press, the Democrat media, if you can even call it that, by the Democratic Party. The real Alex Preddy is very, very different than this false narrative, this innocent ICU nurse, peaceful protester. In fact, what we're watching now is really the Democrats and their media allies whitewashed who Alex Preddy truly is. And he's not a peaceful protester. He never was. In fact, what's happening in Minneapolis is not a protest. It never has been, peaceful or otherwise. This is a well-organized, well-financed, well-funded, almost military-style operation. A coordinated resistance to interfere with and obstruct Donald Trump's efforts, President Trump's efforts to deport violent, criminal, illegal aliens, to conduct legitimate federal law enforcement operations. That's what this is. And Preddy was part of a criminal conspiracy to obstruct and interfere with ICE and with federal law enforcement. And the video a little bit that I played, what has now been released 11 days before what took place, that fatal shooting, that's not a peaceful nurse. That's not some guy who he's just an observer, a legal observer. He's just there. He just wants to videotape people. He's just there with his phone, just videotaping. No. He's actively interfering and obstructing with law enforcement. He's spitting on them. He's shouting obscenities. He's kicking vehicles and smashing up taillights. He's resisting arrest. He got one rib broken. He had a mob that was backing him up, or else he probably would have been arrested. And then this, to me, begs the question, why would you come back a second time? And come back a second time with a loaded gun, with 2 magazines, you're armed to the teeth, 50 rounds, and you're obstructing ICE again? And you're resisting arrest again? No. No, I mean, there's no question. There's no question. Look, at a bare minimum, this is a violent, radical agitator and criminal. What you're watching are crimes, one after another after another. And let me just say one last point, because I want to go to the phone lines, okay? 617-266-6868 is the number. And I'm not blaming those poor ICE agents, because you can tell in that video, they're under siege. They're outmanned. The mob there's just too many of them. This is a deliberate policy by Fry and Waltz to make sure that state law enforcement, local law enforcement was not there to deal with crowd control and, frankly, riot control. This was a riot that was breaking out 11 days before the fatal shooting of Alex Preddy. It was bedlam on the streets. And these ICE agents, they can't deal with the sheer numbers of these domestic terrorists and insurgents, these agitators, that were pelting and attacking their vehicles and blocking them and threatening and menacing them. But I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, this is the problem. All of them should have been arrested. Not just Preddy, who's smashing up taillights and, I'm talking like right up to their face, the middle finger, F you, and then puh, spitting on them. Okay, like an animal. It's the others around him as well. They're doing the exact same thing. And then as they're trying to put him on the ground to arrest him, the mob forms around these maybe 4 or 5 ICE agents. And they're saying, don't you touch him. Sorry, F you, don't you touch him. Don't you touch him. And you could tell they're like, whoa. There's 100, 150 of them. There's like maybe 10 of us. Guys, let's get the hell out of here. There wasn't enough assets on the ground. Federal assets, every single one of them should have been arrested. And that's the problem. They weren't making enough arrests of these so-called quote-unquote protesters who really are rioters and deliberate agitators. And frankly, yes, domestic terrorists. I know Kristi Noem is taking a beating now for calling these people domestic terrorists. That's what they are. They're domestic terrorists. So, look, this Alex Preddy is the real Alex Preddy. And it's like Renee Good. They lied about her, the way they lied about George Floyd, the way they lied about hands up, don't shoot. Remember that? It's again and again. What you get from the media is not the truth, but a myth, a false narrative. What you get is a fiction, a picture, a false picture in order to further their agenda. And what's their agenda? That ICE is out of control, ICE is a modern-day Gestapo, and Trump is a modern-day Fuhrer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the real Alex Preddy. And it is very, very different. In fact, 180 degrees opposite of what the media has been portraying and disseminating. Again, you want to talk about misinformation, disinformation. This is classic disinformation. It's almost like a CIA style, a psyop, a psychological operation to brainwash and manipulate. And I don't like this term, but it's so popular now. Let me use it to gaslight people, to manipulate people into believing or thinking something is true when obviously it's false. He wasn't an innocent bystander. He wasn't a gentle ICU nurse. He wasn't there just to record what was going on. He was a hardcore, radical anti-ICE agitator who was part of a criminal network and a criminal conspiracy to obstruct and interfere with ICE and their legitimate law enforcement operations. So I want to ask you, in the wake now of what we now know, does this change everything about Minneapolis and in the shooting of Alex Preddy and the aftermath? Chris in Milford. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Chris? What do you make of all this?
At first it was very confusing because you see this melee happen in the street, and we obviously see such a small clip, and the people that are more left-leaning that are in my circle are like wanting me to defend the murder of Alex Preddy, and I'm like, time out. We're seeing a clip. We don't know what the precipitating events were. And now we do. He's well known to the ICE agents in Minneapolis, attacking their possibly attacking them, at least kicking out the rear light of the SUV, which then it's reported now he quit his job. Well, I'm not even sure if he is a registered nurse anymore because everything seems fake at this point. But quit his job to quote-unquote peacefully protest, which is not a peaceful protest. It's an uprising is what we're seeing. What we do at the State House in Massachusetts with Kuhner country is peaceful protesting. What they're doing is not. It's obstructionist. It's violating the law. I think Trump messed up after the Renee Good thing. He should have, put the military in there to act as a security barrier for these guys to do their operations. And we need to root out the infestation of illegals from the country at this point. And we need to, moderate slightly. Like Kristi Noem and Bovino should not have come out right away with an opinion. We are looking into all the facts, left it at that. Because I think it needlessly enraged the country. Now, to the incident itself, from what I can see in the video, it's hard to, what happened entirely. We don't know. Was there a misfire? What I do know is that when you meet force with force, you get an explosion. And I feel bad for the guy. Now he's dead. That's tragic. It's a loss of life. That said, we have a problem where Antifa is funding people to quit their jobs so they can purposely go out and obstruct federal law enforcement from doing their jobs. It feels very Civil War-ish to me, and I'm very concerned about the future of the country. And with the polarizing narrative. Well,
you nailed it. Look, you read my mind. And I can just tell you this. I've got friends in Minneapolis, journalist friends, conservatives, bloggers, very smart people who are there watching what's going on. And they're saying, Jeff, it's like a cold civil war that is starting to run hot. I'm verbatim. This is not what they're telling me. They go, the media is not showing you much of what's really happening. Windows are being smashed. Stores are being looted. Cars are being destroyed. They're saying that ICE is being put in an impossible situation. And by the way, these are huge Trump supporters. They love the guy. Okay? They crawl on broken glass for him. But they're saying, did Bovino and Kristi Noem, pardon the pun, jump the gun? Yes, he was not brandishing a gun. Alex Preddy was not. He had a gun, but he wasn't brandishing a gun. That's not true. Okay, they exaggerated that. We're not sure if he even pulled the gun in that whole scuffle that took place. So some of what they said was A, inaccurate, and B, you prejudged the situation. So they should have, and the expression is, they went over their skis. Okay. They went over, you're over your skis. And that's what happened. And Bovino now has been relocated. He's been sent to California, to run the sector that he normally runs. And Kristi Noem, at least for now, has been sidelined. Holman now is essentially running the operation, in Minneapolis. So there's no question some mistakes were made. But the overall point is that the situation in Minneapolis has now spiraled out of control. What my friends are telling me, and I trust these people impeccably. In fact, they've shown me videos, pictures. They're there. It's an unraveling. This is how they term it. Minneapolis is unraveling, and they believe America now is starting to unravel. They said, you don't understand. You have the mayor and the governor on television every night saying, not just that they want ICE out, but that federal immigration law does not apply to Minneapolis or Minnesota. Period. Full stop. That they will not enforce it. They will not abide by it. They're encouraging people to openly violate and defy it. So they're telling these people explicitly, go to the streets and take on ICE. In fact, the lieutenant governor, Peggy Flanagan, has openly said, put your bodies on the line. So Alex Preddy was not just part of an Ice Watch network. Alex Preddy was doing what Waltz, Fry, and Flanagan, which is the Democratic Party leadership in Minnesota, told him to do. Get in their face, obstruct them, resist them, and put your body on the line. And what my journalist, blogger friends are saying is, you don't understand. They don't listen to your show, Kuhner. They don't watch Newsmax. They don't watch Fox. What they read is the Minnesota Star Tribune, which is completely in their camp. What they watch is CNN or MS Now, and they listen to their local Democrat leaders. And they're being told, you're heroes. You're martyrs. That the country is looking to you for inspiration. Because ICE are a bunch of Nazis. They're convinced of this now. They are Gestapo, and Trump is a modern-day Führer. He is a Hitler. And that they're saving our country and our democracy by dying for challenging ICE. That, I'm not kidding, they're going to go down in history like, von Stauffenberg. People who died in the attempt of assassinating Hitler or standing up to the Nazis or the Gestapo. He goes, you don't understand. They really believe this because that's what they're being told over and over. And what they're saying is, final point, I'm going to come back to you, Chris, I promise, is they go, when you're there, you can smell the evil in the air. They're not showing you the hammer and sickle flags. They're not showing you how many Antifa thugs there are, where they're calling for the violent overthrow of the government, openly calling for anarchy, openly calling for the murder and violence against ICE agents, including calls to assassinate the president. It's a mob that is out of control. They go, Jeff, you're right. It's an insurrection. And the media is trying to bury this or minimize this. But they go, you don't understand. If Trump doesn't move aggressively, this is spreading and it's going to continue to spread. So this is, to me, this is the part that the media is deliberately trying to sweep under the rug. Because you see, they want another Alex Preddy. They want another Renee Good. The more people that die, the bigger of a PR disaster the left is convinced it is for Trump. And in the end, they want the ICE operations to stop in Minneapolis and in cities all over the United States. This way, the illegal aliens get to stay. That's their goal. That's their goal. And Trump has already pulled out a lot of federal agents. You have Holman now. He met with both Waltz and Fry. By the way, Fry told Holman to basically fly a kite. He gave him, basically, he told him the middle finger. Fry said, don't come to me. Get out of my city. We're not going to. So, and the last point, they go, you don't understand. The ICE agents, the moment they come, they're arresting rapists, murderers, child molesters. It's the worst of the worst. The moment they go to make an arrest, hundreds, if not thousands, surround them, these agitators. And there's no police support. There's no backup. They're twisting in the wind. And they're saying you're putting them now in an impossible situation. Final word to you, Chris.
Yeah, I think the DOJ, it needs to be a two-sided approach. You need to flood the zone with the military to do crowd control and really arrest people. Like, if you're facing a federal charge, your life is tied up for years. And that'll be
Oh, I agree. They put federal charges on him. I'm so with you, Chris. Flood the zone. He's got to call in the military. Okay, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. All right, my friends. So I just want to read this text because what it shows is it's not just in the narrative, the false narrative, the propaganda, the as the Russians would say, disinformatio. Okay, the disinformation, the misinformation that the media and the Democrats are deliberately spewing about Alex Preddy and what happened in that fatal shooting. But even his image, the pictures that they're disseminating, showing on the TV screens, putting in newspapers, disseminating online, it's all a lie. And this is from 781. Jeff, even the official Veterans Affairs nurse picture of Preddy in his scrubs is a fabrication. That's how far the gaslighting is going. The one that is circulating in all of the media has been run through and improved by one of the AI headshot applications to make him look much more attractive. His actual rat-like face was modified and retouched. Well, they've added hair. They've added color to his cheeks. They've added weight. He's different. Forgive me. They're, quote, sexying him up. They're making him look a lot better than the real guy looked like, especially what you see in that video 11 days prior to his fatal shooting. The guy looks like an absolute, as I said, he looks like he's a psychopath. He looks like a wild man, deranged, unhinged, crazed. Now, they're going all in. They're going all in. So I just want you to hear this, because this is now the extent of what is happening. Just in the last 24 to 48 hours. Barack Obama, the dear leader, you can tell now he is the puppet master. He is the mastermind. He is orchestrating this. Tim Walz is too stupid, or Jacob Fry especially. These two guys are too stupid to be engineering and organizing this. Okay? This is all coming from the top. Listen now to Obama. This is what he wrote on his X account, and it's now gone everywhere. The Politburo has now issued their marching orders. Quote, in Minneapolis and many other communities across the country, we're seeing people come together to peacefully protest and support their neighbors. If you're looking to get involved, here are some ways to help. And he starts there's links to how you can get down to Minneapolis and confront ICE. Or if you don't want to go all the way to Minneapolis, I'm not kidding, literally in your city or in your college campus, we want you to take it to the streets. And by the way, now they're taking it to the streets. College campuses now, thousands of protesters across the country. Just to give you an example, in UCLA, okay, out in Southern California, thousands now. They didn't go to school. Why aren't they going to school? They're now on the streets, blocking traffic, saying that they stand with the people of Minneapolis, the agitators, the insurrectionists, that they're not going to stop until they get justice for Alex Preddy. And what's justice for Alex Preddy? Noam must be impeached and removed from office. ICE must be defunded and abolished. Hollywood, star after star after star, is now urging national walkouts, national protests on behalf of Alex Preddy and against ICE and against Trump. They're now going all in. Listen now, even Bruce Springsteen, I'm not kidding, okay? That left-wing hack, that washed-up left-wing hack, he's now got a song, Streets of Minneapolis. Radio stations are playing it everywhere. The left now says they stand in solidarity with Alex Preddy and Renee Good, and they now want ICE gone. Not just out of Minneapolis. ICE must be now abolished and destroyed. No deportations now, no deportations ever. Here is Bruce Springsteen. I'm just going to play a little bit so you get the sense now of the propaganda, the massive cultural propaganda that is now being deployed. Roll cut 13, Mike. You get the picture, you know? They're blaring that now on the streets of Minneapolis, St. Paul. They're blaring this now all over the country. This is the song. They now have an anthem, and it's just spreading and spreading and spreading. And this is what I warned about. I kept telling everybody. I hate to do this when I say I told you so. Many of you said it. This audience said it. This is something you nip in the bud. You don't nip this in the bud. This spreads like a cancer. It's like a virus. And here we are. Here we are. And I don't know. We're going to see. I mean, I don't know what else to say. But we're being lied to. We're being propagandized. We're being manipulated. And they've turned Alex Preddy into a hero and into a martyr. He's now going to be Saint Alex, the way they've made Saint Floyd, George Floyd, Saint George. And this thing now is going to get uglier and uglier. Unless Trump unless he completely capitulates, which I don't think he will, this is now going to get uglier and uglier and uglier. 617-266-6868. Jimmy in Malden. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
So before I get what I called about, Bryce Springsteen isn't the only one planning to do something of a song. Ice-T is redoing his old cop killer song, retitling it Ice Killer. But if I was the president, I know he listens to the show, he should declare the Democrat Party a domestic terrorist group.
Well, that's what they've become. They're an insurrectionist party. They're a revolutionary party. They're a party now that's fomenting an actual rebellion against federal law, federal immigration, federal authority, President Trump himself. I'm going to play. There's more. Trust me, this show is going to be jam-packed today. You're not going to believe now. They're calling for him to be murdered. Going to get to this later, but you now have Democrat candidates for office running on a platform. Elect me, I will kill Trump. You can't. I'm telling you, you can't make this up. Look, I've seen this movie before. This is South Carolina. This is the South. The Democrats did it then over slavery. They're doing it now over illegal immigration. This is the hill they're willing to die on. And I don't think that the DOJ, first of all, he's got a problem because I don't think the Department of Justice understands the scale now of the hatred and it's the emotion now. There's no more logic or reason in this, Jimmy. When Bruce Springsteen is playing, it's all bull, you know what? It's Bravo Sierra, the whole song. It doesn't matter now. They believe on the streets, these Marxist Antifa thugs, that they are reliving the civil rights movement. I'm telling you, that's what they think. That they're on the side of history and that now they're going to break Trump. That they're going to overturn the election and they're going to break him on his signature issue, which is the border and deporting illegals. And they're going all in. Obama's telling them to take it to the streets. Hillary Clinton now has come out and said, take it to the streets. Bernie Sanders, AOC, the entire, the chair of the DNC is now openly saying Trump is Hitler with a red tie. Take it to the streets. So you're right, Jimmy. He's got now, this is now beyond Minneapolis. And he's trying to de-escalate. He doesn't want violence. He doesn't want things to explode. I understand where he's coming from. Okay, he's trying to calm the temperature. He's trying to be reasonable. By the way, the exact opposite of what a dictator would do. A dictator would say, just shoot them all. Just shoot them, massacre them, go. Okay, arrest them all. Bullet to the head. If this really was Gestapo and the Nazis, to show you how stupid and ignorant these people are, they would line them up, boom, and bullet in the head. Next, bullet in the head. Next, bullet. It would be mass grave after mass grave. Okay, that's the Nazis. That's what they actually did. That's reality. It's not send in ICE. We let Preddy go. He assaults ICE. He destroys the taillight. He's spitting on him. He's obstructing an operation. Okay, we'll let him go. He comes back 11 days later with a loaded gun and 2 magazines and, really obstructs him and really arrests, really resists arrest. And there's a scuffle. But what I'm saying is, Trump is, let me talk to the governor. Let me talk to the mayor. I'll pull some people out. I just want to get the most violent criminals. By the way, Trump is now backtracked. I'm just, because he's trying to de-escalate. Trump has now told them, we're not going to deport all illegals anymore from Minneapolis or Minnesota. What he said is, we just want the most violent, dangerous ones. Like there's about a couple hundred they really want. They go, look, please, you have them in your jail, some of them. Can you release them? Please, can you give us information on others, latest known address, whatever, so we can track them and arrest them? And give us some police protection, crowd control, so we can do this. So he's being eminently reasonable. That's not what a dictator would do. And middle finger. I mean, it's just Waltz gave him the middle finger. Fry gave him the middle finger. Peggy Flanagan, the lieutenant governor, she gave him the middle finger. So, Jimmy, if somebody keeps giving you the middle finger, what do you do, Jimmy? Final word to you. Go, my friend.
We need to declare them a domestic terrorist group and put them all in jail.
Do you think, Jimmy, do you think it's time to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Been done yesterday.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Jimmy. I think now the gloves have to come off. They have to come off. Holman's going to be holding a press conference. We're going to see what he's going to say. I don't think it's going to be good. He's being statesmanlike. He's trying to say we've had good meetings, constructive. We're trying to find common ground. I think now what he's being told, the way they're disrespecting him even in meetings, they want a showdown. They want a showdown in Minneapolis. And to me, you're going to get one. Whether you like it or not, you're getting a showdown. Jimmy, thank you very, very much. Very good call. And you're right. The Democrat Party is a terrorist organization now. There's no question. Eddie in Maine. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Barney Kuhner, Eddie, Sebago Lake, Maine. How are we doing today?
Very good, Eddie. And thank the Lord I'm not in Minneapolis. That's all I have to say.
Me too. It's cold enough here. I don't want to be there. He's got to find a way. You see these protests, the same people are showing up day and night. They're getting paid by somebody. He's got to cut the finances off somehow. George Searle. Why don't he arrest George Searle and his son, just like the way they did to the dictator a little while ago? And the riot there, the couple of big, massive riots there, the one in California and George Floyd, hundreds of billions of dollars of damages. Who paid for it? Us chump Republican voters that get up and pay our taxes. And he's got to give the mayor and the governor, you got 24 hours to turn around, but have the forces marching in. They're ready. You got 24 hours, and then arrest them if they don't start doing something. Arrest them on the spot. Show these other mayors and governors what they're going to get. Because playing nice guy, it doesn't work with these people.
Well, it's not working. I mean, Eddie, you're right. Look, you're right. It usually never works, okay? I mean, there's always the odd exception. You meet some people, you go, he's a bit more rational than I thought, or a bit more reasonable. Okay, so but generally you're right. But it's not working now. In fact, look, Waltz is putting more gas on the fire. I can play you the cuts. I don't want to waste your time. I'd rather take great calls from from this audience. But Waltz went on MS Now, and he said, I got nothing to lose. Because now he's being feted everywhere as the hero, as the leader of the resistance. Like this is his fantasy. He now thinks he's Mao Zedong. He admires Mao. He thinks he's leading a revolution here in the United States. And so this idiot, who now has got more attention and limelight even than when he ran for the vice presidency, okay, when he was Kamala's VP, now he's saying, oh, I'm not running for elected office. This is it. In other words, I've got nothing to lose. So I'm going to go all the way on this. So, and they're like, wow, what a leader. Wow, what a hero. So what's actually happening is that Waltz and Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, that idiot, the boy wonder, and this guy, the China lover, okay, they're, Tampon Tim, now they're trying to outdo one another. Who's going to resist ICE and Trump more? Who's going to stand up to Holman more? And they're going on like even CNN, like same stations, same channels, same media outlets. And it's like, okay, well, if Walt said this, then I'm gonna up him one more. Oh, hold on, Fry just went on. Well, I'm gonna one up him even more. So no, according to Tampon Tim, he doesn't care. Arrest me, shoot me. I mean, this is how stupid he sounds. You know, torture me. The Gestapo's gonna come. I mean, the guy's nuts. So that's what's happening, Eddie in Maine. So my question to you is, when you're dealing now with unhinged left-wing lunatics and people who are itching and spoiling, not even for a fight, but now for a rebellion, in many ways even for a revolution, if you look at the signs that are being carried and the messages now that you see on the streets of Minneapolis, and some of them are even calling for a violent revolution. Eddie, you're advising the president. His people are listening. What do you think he should do?
He's got to drop the hammer. He's got to drop it hard, because no matter what he does, if he's a nice guy, they're not going to appreciate it. It's just like we all had bullies when we were growing up. As long as you let a bully stick his finger in your face, he's going to keep doing it till you bend down and cry for mercy. I give it to him. I lay the hammer out. But that's me. I know he wants to try to do things nicely, but it's not going to work out for him. I'm sorry. You're dealing with animals, man. I can call them animals. That's what they are.
Oh, they are. No, you're right. They're animals. And by the way, I'm telling you, Alex Preddy was acting like an animal. But I urge, please don't take my word for it. The video is now everywhere. Okay? This is 11 days before the fatal shooting. Just look at the guy. And then look at the picture of him that the media is pushing everywhere. And you're going to say, he looks a million times better than the guy in that video. You can tell it's AI enhanced. They're prettying him up. They're sexing him up. They're glamorizing him up. And, they're adding everything. I mean, they're adding higher cheekbones. They're adding more hair, more color, wider shoulders. They're trying to make this guy look as the best as possible. They're trying to sell him as a martyr to the American people. Eddie, look, you have now people who were in the CIA, as well as people in special operations. In fact, they're coming out, who worked in Afghanistan, who worked in Iraq, who've worked special operations in other countries around the world. And this is what they're saying. They're warning us. Their words, not mine. The organization on the ground in Minneapolis, the kind of financing, the kind of network, the kind of propaganda and brainwashing that the media and the Democrats are utilizing is what we did when we wanted to overthrow regimes in other countries. Quote, it's like doing a color revolution, unquote. Let me repeat that. That's what they're saying. People that overthrew governments in Serbia, in Georgia, in Ukraine, in these color revolutions, okay? They're saying this is exactly like a color revolution, except it's a domestic internal color revolution. And in a color revolution, you have to find a hero and a martyr. You then have to capture the media. You then have to relentlessly indoctrinate and brainwash the people into believing a false narrative. And then you have to portray the authorities in power as evil, illegitimate, Hitlerian, fascistic, and that's what they're doing. Forgive me, my friends, the Kuhner man's battling a little bit of a cold, so my throat's a bit raw and scratchy, no big deal, but I got to keep clearing it all the time. All right, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. This is Vince, who is now in Florida. God bless him. Used to work here at iHeart as an account executive. By the way, very good account executive. And he sends me a picture of himself. And Vince has lost a lot of weight, by the way. And actually, he's looking pretty good. But, it's him. How do I say this? In his normal body. He's like me. He's got some gray, hair's starting to recede. And he goes, if MS Now did a story on me, in other words, the way they're, the AI work that they've done on Alex Preddy's picture. So it's him with his, he's got a shirt on, he's got his receding hairline, his gray hair, his thinner but still slightly flabby body. And then there's this guy with bulging muscles. I mean, just this cut chest, full, thick beard. By the way, no gray hair whatsoever. Full head of hair. No gray hair at all. And he's like, Jeff, if MS Now did a story on me. So I'm like, yeah, geez, I wish they would touch me up the way they're touching Alex Preddy up, I could use it, believe me. 617-266-6868. Many of you are texting the Kuhner man about that Bruce Springsteen song, The Streets of Minneapolis, saying, Jeff, that wrinkled fraud. What, he thinks he's Bob Dylan now? And by the way, he really is. He's ripping off some of the, the chords and lyrics of Bob Dylan. Like, he's such a fraud. This guy can't even do his own authentic songs. It's a Bob Dylan, it's a ripoff. It's a knockoff. I mean, I don't know if Dylan is still alive or not, but if he is, sue him. That's what I would do. You phony, you fraud, you. 617. By the way, I don't even think it's a very good song, to be honest. But anyway, apparently they're blaring it everywhere. It's playing everywhere. Marie in Peabody. Thanks for holding, Marie, and welcome.
Thank you. I read Hillsdale College brochures, and they had something interesting. It was a quote by President Jackson in 1832, and it says, I consider the power to annul a law of the United States assumed by one state incompatible with the existence of the Union, contradicted expressly by the letter of the Constitution, unauthorized by its spirit, and inconsistent with every principle on which it was founded, and destructive of the great object for which it was formed. I just thought that applied to Minnesota.
Well, I mean, Marie, you're right. It does. But just so that you know, it's South Carolina. This was in the late 1820s, early 1830s, when Andrew Jackson, you're completely right, is president of the United States. South Carolina was the one that led this charge for nullification, that certain federal laws, it was the tariff in particular, would not apply to South Carolina. And that started the secessionist movement. It began in South Carolina. They were the tip of the spear of what was to become the Confederacy. And Jackson faced them down right away. And that, in fact, there was his vice president was John C. Calhoun, who was, before that a senator from South Carolina and eventually would become a senator again. So you literally had the president and the vice president at each other's throats, daggers drawn. And that's when Andrew Jackson said, no, we don't nip this now. This thing is going to spread. Now, he did nip it. The problem was the people that followed him didn't. And that's what gave us eventually the Civil War. So, and I'm not the only one saying this. Minneapolis now, the arguments that they're making, the claims that they're making, the actions that they're taking, it's South Carolina 2.0. It's, and it's just instead of South Carolina, it's now Minnesota. But you're dead on. What Andrew Jackson said, although it was meant towards South Carolina at the time, applies to Minnesota and Minneapolis today. You're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. And, and I got to say this, the president that Trump compares himself most to, and that most serious historians say, this is the president that he resembles the most. It's Andrew Jackson. There's Jacksonian nationalism is the way people describe Trump and his his first term and his second term. He's got a channel now, Marie, some Andrew Jackson. Agree, disagree? What say you?
I totally agree. I live in a complex that has a mostly blue demographic, and a bunch of the little old ladies stand out every day they can with their signs against Trump, against ICE, and they proudly call themselves the Mad Grannies. So it's so disgusting. But anyways, I'm going to get off the phone and listen to you.
Great point. Marie, thank you so much for that call. Look, that's Andrew Jackson was right then, and if you apply it to Minnesota, he's right now. And look, I appreciate it. Trump now can say, I've exhausted every option. I've sent in Homan. Okay, you can text the Kuhner man, 70470, 70470. This is one of the best texts I've gotten in, I think, years, to be honest. It's from 617. You want to talk about hitting the nail right on the head, baby. So, listen to what 617 says. Jeff, the color revolution that is happening here is being run by the same deep state traitors that have run them everywhere else. Our own CIA, the NGOs, these non-governmental organizations, the media plants, and of course, the dear leader himself, Barack Hussein Obama. But why? Why are they now trying to run a color revolution? The answer is simple. Without the tens of millions of illegals, there will never be the leftist dream in the United States. And that is a one-party dictatorship, one-party rule, draped in the trappings of democracy. Bingo. That's why they have to stop Trump, and they have to block and eventually abolish and discredit and destroy ICE. Because who they're deporting, that is the base of the Democratic Party. Those are their voters. Without all of those illegals, they lose 18 electoral college votes. 18. Just in the electoral college alone. They lose seats in the House of Representatives. Never mind that the fact that the illegals are voting. Okay, just let that go. Just in terms of sheer representation in Congress and in the electoral college. 18 votes gone. 18 seats gone. The illegals have to stay for the Democrats to maintain power. And that's why they can't be deported. And everything else, as they say, is just, we're just blowing smoke. 617-266-6868. Mark in Connecticut. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mark.
Listen, I don't feel bad for that guy who got himself killed. You bring a gun to a riot and stuff. What do you think is going to happen to you? I don't feel bad for him at all. You play, you pay. And we got to start getting this attitude now. These people want to take our country away. It's a minority of people. We got to come down hard on them and stuff. We got to take our country back. We can't allow this. You know, you look at the Nazis. The Nazis were a minority. They lost that election, and Trump, yeah, and Hitler. Sorry, Hitler went to jail. You know, granted, it was a room where he could write, you know, Mein Kampf and all that. But, you know, they were a minority of people. They took through force. These people are the same thing. The majority of people don't want anything to do with this. Trump's got to come down hard and heavy on every one of them now, because it's going to get out of hand, and I think it already is out of hand. Rubber bullets, water hoses. You know, you spray water on these losers, man. They're not going to be standing out there too much longer. You know, on these temperatures and stuff. It's gone too far. He let it go too far. Look what he did with the Iran. He let the Ayatollahs stay in power. Well, that was a huge mistake. And if he doesn't do something drastic now and hard now on these people, it's going to be another huge mistake on him. That's about all I got to say. I mean, it's just common sense.
Well, Mark, look, you're dead on. I mean, the Nazis were a minority. They never got majority support ever in any election. And, you know, the best they got was essentially 1/3 of the vote. But they were the biggest party for a while in the German parliament, and that's how Hitler maneuvered himself to become chancellor. You look at the Bolsheviks, when they seized power, that was a minority. A militant, vicious, violent minority, but it was a minority. Mao in China, that was a minority. Fidel Castro in Cuba, that was a minority. I mean, I could go, you're completely right. This, you know, history is very, you know, it does maybe it doesn't exactly repeat itself, but it rhymes. So you're dead on. And look, Mark, I thought, and your analogy about Iran is a very good one, but I thought you were going to go with the George Floyd riots, you know, the so-called summer of love. And again, I love Trump. I thought his first term was spectacular. But, you know, even he himself said, I let that thing go on way too long because he thought it's going to burn. He said, well, it's going to burn itself out. It didn't burn itself out. That thing went on for month after month after month. It spread to city after city after city after city. To me, I think it's one of the reasons why it enabled the Democrats to steal the election. Obviously, on top of COVID, obviously. So he let these riots just go on and on and on. And what happened? They spread and spread and spread. And I think the exact same thing is happening now. You know, look, Mark, final point, and I want to get your reaction. You know, these conservative journalists and bloggers that I'm in contact with, and they're excellent. They're very smart. They've been living in Minnesota for 30, 40, some of them 50 years, okay? They're the best in the business. They know Minneapolis. They know Minnesota. They've been on the streets now. This is what they're telling me. They go, Jeff, we covered the riots of 2020. Remember when Waltz's wife had the window open? And when Waltz wanted to shut the window because they were burning everything, and there was burning tires and burning cars, and she said, oh no, keep it open, Tim. That's the smell of revolution. She loved the smell of the burning, the fires. He says, I'm telling you, in many ways, it's worse than what we saw in 2020. He goes, because what you're seeing on the streets now is they're calling for the violent overthrow of the government. He goes, yes, there was more looting and burning then, but the people that were on the streets were not as fanatical and as zealous and as violently militant as they are now. So, Mark, I've got to ask you, A, do you believe he waited too long with the riots in 2020? And is Trump now repeating the same mistake, in your view?
Trump is a nice guy, and that's his problem. I think Trump truly loves the people of America, but it's got to stop. It's got to stop. You know, I like Trump a lot. I think Trump's a good man. And to his fault, he loves America and the American people. And, he doesn't want to have to come down hard and heavy on these fascists. But if he doesn't, it's going to get worse. And like you said, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And look at that traffic. And worse because I got to hold on a minute here.
Mark, I hear you, buddy. Please just be safe on the road. Again, typical Kuhner country caller / listener. He's too busy going to work. He's calling and you know what I mean? And he's got to work. Someone's got to pay the taxes. Just to finish his point, because he's dead on. When Trump found out about the death of Alex Preddy and he looked at the video, he was heartbroken. It goes exactly to Mark's point. Trump loves the American people. He didn't want Rene Good to be shot. He didn't. Contrary, the caricature, this childish caricature, cartoon character that the media and the Democrats are inventing about Trump. He's an evil dictator. He's Hitler. Quite the opposite. It bothered him that Rene Good was shot. Fatally shot. It bothered him that Alex Preddy was fatally shot. And that's one of the reasons why he sent in home. And he goes, look, I just want the dying. I don't want any more deaths. I don't want any more Americans killed. Stop it. And I think that's a problem. I mean, it's a beautiful sentiment, but the left is exploiting that because to them, to the media, to Obama, to Waltz, to Fry, to Peggy Flanagan, that crazy lieutenant governor, these are martyrs. These are stepping stones for their power and for the revolution that they're fomenting. So it's like the more dead, the better. Really, their fantasy is a massacre, like an ice-led massacre. Oh my God! Then we really got a revolution going. So Trump wants to minimize the deaths. They want to see even more dead bodies, and that shows you the nature of the evil that is now walking on the streets of Minneapolis. Okay, you need to hear this. All of you. You really need to hear this. What part of a color-coded revolution, any color revolution, is you have to delegitimize the authorities in power. And you have to delegitimize them, vilify them, demonize them to such an extent that chaos becomes acceptable. Chaos almost becomes welcomed. Now, remember, this is very profound. It's biblical. God made order out of chaos. So, in essence, chaos is something that Satan thrives in. Chaos, by the way, it's the greatest threat, the greatest disaster that can befall a country is chaos. Worse than almost anything else, because chaos leads to anarchy, to lawlessness, to rampant criminality, and eventually to civil war. It's inevitable. So the one thing as a society, civilized society, you always want to make sure never happens is that your country or society begins to descend or devolve into chaos. What you're seeing in Minneapolis, as J.D. Vance rightly said, is engineered chaos. And we now know it is being completely masterminded and orchestrated by Obama, by Hillary Clinton, by the Minnesota Democratic Party, by George Soros. In other words, by the arch enemies and opponents of Trump, by the globalists. And to pull off this color revolution, they have to turn Trump and ICE into the boogeyman, into these unspeakable evil monsters. And so they make stuff up that ICE is kidnapping people, sending them to torture dungeons, that they're rounding up U.S. citizens, that they're just executing people left, right, and center. As Tim Waltz claimed, they're going door to door, knocking on every house, looking for quote-unquote people of color to either shoot them in the face or round them up and put them in quote-unquote concentration camps. So it's now gotten to the point where you have tens and tens of millions of brainwashed Democrats, leftists, liberals who are absolutely convinced that ICE is now a Gestapo force, they are the modern Nazis, and that Trump is now the Fuhrer. He's Hitler. They really now think this guy is Hitler. And that's why you've got people like Alex Preddy who are willing to put their bodies on the line to die. Because in Alex Preddy's mind, he's not going after legitimate federal law enforcement that is targeting and arresting murderers and rapists and child molesters and drug traffickers who shouldn't even be in our country because they're illegal aliens. In his mind, he is obstructing and stopping an American Gestapo Nazi conquering occupying army. That's what he's been told. That's what the media is telling him. That's what Hollywood is telling him. That's what his leadership, the Democratic Party, is telling him. I want you to listen now, because this is the state that we're in. This is Seth Moulton, congressman here from Massachusetts, a veteran, served in the military. You figure he would know better. No. This is Moulton on CNN defending the comparisons of ICE, federal immigration law enforcement, and Trump to the Nazis. Roll cut 14, Mike. All right, we got a bit of a technical issue. Mike's going to try to fix it. But essentially what he says is, he says, no, I don't think Nazi comparisons are extreme. They're appropriate. And look, he then says, well, ordinary Germans began to accept that members of their community would be singled out.
I don't think that the comparisons with Nazi Germany are extreme, because that's what happened too. That's why ordinary German citizens began to accept the idea that certain members of their community would be singled out. I mean, they have ICE tip lines, would be directly targeted in violation of the laws of the land, and it would be done as by agents of the state. But that's what's happening today in Minneapolis. And I'll tell you, people back home in Massachusetts are very concerned that we could be next.
So now the Nazis are going to descend upon Massachusetts. They're going to try. You can see they're going to whip something up in Boston. Okay? They're trying to. But notice what he said. No, they're Nazis. There's no factual evidence. It's not even close to being within the realms of reality. If you know anything about the Nazis, how they took power, how they kept power, how they wielded power, I mean, literally, you're either an absolute ignoramus, an idiot, or you're a dangerous demagogue. And by the way, having ICE tip lines, in other words, where people tell ICE about illegal aliens, is not illegal. I don't know what this guy's talking about. That's what I mean. They make stuff up. But listen now to this. Okay, it's coming from every direction. This is the district attorney for Philadelphia, a major American city. By the way, overrun with illegals, but let that go. Larry Krasner. This is now what he's saying about ICE should they enter Philadelphia. Roll cut 17, Mike.
I want you to understand that just as you have come together, there are state prosecutors coming together right now to make sure that people understand there will be accountability. There will be accountability now. There will be accountability in the future. There will be accountability after Trump is out of office. If we have to hunt you down the way they hunted down Nazis for decades, we will find your identities, we will find you, we will achieve justice, and we will do so under the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
Okay, I mean, he's insane. But the point is, he's the district attorney for Philadelphia. By the way, that's now a Democrat media talking point, that the way they went after Mengele and the way they went after Eichmann and the way they went after, other Nazi war criminals, that's exactly now they say what's going to happen if they take power back in 2028. They're going to put Trump in a Nuremberg-style trial, his entire cabinet, led by Stephen Miller, anyone, leading members of ICE, even ICE agents themselves, including, by the way, MAGA voters. MAGA voters, you, me. They're openly saying, we're going to hunt you down because now you're the equivalent of Nazis. Now, here's a very influential academic. He's big on the left, okay? His stuff appears in the New York Review of Books. His stuff appears in the New York Times, the Washington Post. He's a professor at New York University by the name of Scott Galloway. And the Democrats listen to him. Liberals read him. Listen now to what he says. Roll cut 19. Mike.
What I'm suggesting is, and again, I've struggled with this my whole life, the difference between being right and being effective. And we're angry, and I get it, protesting is powerful. Promising them that there will be an accountability. And I've said this, I think there should be something equivalent to the Nuremberg trials after this is all over.
I agree.
And to make it clear that once we're back in power, which we will be, this is going to happen. And the statute of limitations on murder is
0.
Never.
Okay? That's what you do in a color revolution. You completely delegitimize the authorities in power, and you start fomenting chaos and violence and an insurrection and eventually the overthrow. But then you put the people in power in prison through these ridiculous, so-called war crimes trials. Now, I want you to listen to Senator John Fetterman. He went on Fox. He's Jewish. It's important because actually he knows something about the Holocaust through his family. I'm not Jewish, but as I said, half my family were killed by Nazis. My grandfather, God bless him, spent nearly a year and a half, almost 2 years in a Nazi concentration camp, on top of, 3 years in a communist concentration camp after the war. But let that go. I know what real Nazis do and what real Nazis are like. And you know me, I'm so disgusted by these Nazi comparisons. It's beyond sickening. It's blasphemy to the dead. That's what it is. To the victims of the Holocaust, including my grandparents and including many of my family members. Okay? It is blasphemy to the dead. Listen now to Fetterman. He's talking about Krasner in particular, the DA in Philadelphia, who said, ICE agents are Nazis, Trump is a Nazi, his cabinet are full of Nazis, and we're going to hunt you down the way Simon Wiesenthal hunted down Nazi war criminals after World War II. Roll cut 12, Mike.
That's gross, and that I absolutely condemn that. Absolutely. Do not compare anyone to Nazis. Don't use that kind of rhetoric. That could incite violence, and I strongly reject that and condemn that kind of language in the strongest terms. Members of ICE are not Nazis. I don't compare anyone to Gestapo and those things. This is one of the reasons why I think we should stand down in what's happening in Minneapolis. We all have to reduce the temperature. We have to turn it down. And using that kinds of rhetoric, again, I can't ever support that. And I have a basic rule in politics. Don't compare anyone to Nazis. I don't care. You just don't do that.
Of course you don't do that. Of course. Because I'll tell you why. Because there are people, and they call this show, Bill in Sudbury is one of them, that actually think Republicans are Nazis. I'm a Nazi. You're a Nazi. ICE agents are Nazis. And they think they're sophisticated when they go neo-Nazis. Like the new Nazis. They're not Nazis. They're neo-Nazis. I'm so sophisticated. You're an idiot. You're an idiot, and a dangerous idiot. Because once you start calling your opponents Nazis, what you're saying is kill them. Kill them, arrest them, imprison them, destroy them, dehumanize them. That's the color revolution. They're not your fellow citizens anymore. We don't live in a constitutional republic anymore. Anything goes. You want to riot? Riot. You want to loot? Loot. You want to go out there and bite off the fingers of DHS agents? Bite their fingers off. You want to call for the open murder of Donald Trump? Go ahead. Why? He's the Fuhrer. Kill him. What's the matter with you? We're facing now a Nazi occupation. They believe this because they're being told this. Now, listen to this, okay? I teased it earlier. Here it is. Democrats now are running on killing Trump. They're run because the revolution takes its own course. So if Trump is a Nazi, if ICE is the Gestapo, if this is the new Fuhrer, then there's only one option. You gotta take out the Fuhrer, obviously, because he's gonna throw us all into concentration camps. We're all being executed on the streets. We're being disappeared. We're being kidnapped. We're being tossed into dungeons. People are being tortured. Okay, it's all BS. It's all a pack of lies, grotesque lies, sickening lies, inflammatory lies, incendiary lies. It doesn't matter. People believe it. So when they believe it, you know what they start campaigning on? Kill the Fuhrer. So this is Elliot Foran. He is the Democrat candidate for Ohio's state attorney general. This guy is going to be the chief law enforcement, if he wins. He's running to be the chief law enforcement officer for Ohio. This is him posting a video, fantasizing, saying, vote for me. You vote for me, I'm going to kill Donald Trump. Roll cut 22, Mike.
This is Elliot Forhan, candidate for Ohio Attorney General. I want to tell you what I mean when I say that I am going to kill Donald Trump. I mean, I'm going to obtain a conviction rendered by a jury of his peers at a standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, based on evidence presented at a trial conducted in accordance with the requirements of due process, resulting in a sentence duly executed of capital punishment. That is what I mean when I say that I'm going to kill Donald Trump.
Okay, capital punishment for what? They'll come up with some bogus charge. He's a war criminal. He's a dictator. Whatever. But so we'll charge him, and this time we'll go for the death penalty. Let's not play around. The first time when he was out of power, it was, almost 1,000 years in prison. They wanted him gone for a millennium. No. Now we're going to put the noose around his neck, or it's going to be the electric chair. Now, what is starting to happen? I could give you story after story. I'm just going to give you one. Only one, because I could go with story after story. There is now, and there's no other word, there is now an explosion in people calling for Trump to be murdered and assassinated. And I don't mean privately. I mean publicly, brazenly. So listen now to this story. A West Virginia librarian, okay, a woman. She is 39 years old. Her name is Morgan Moreau. Morrow. Please look it up yourself. Don't take my word for it. She is a librarian at Jackson County Public Library in West Virginia. By the way, we pay her salary. It's a public library. She's a public librarian. That means her salary is funded by taxpayer dollars. Your money, my money, our money. She goes on social media and she's calling for people to assassinate Trump. And she says, I'm going to pay you. Name your price. Hitler must be killed. These ICE Gestapo Nazis must be killed. And so she goes and says, literally, there's got to be someone in a country of 340 million people. You got to have a terminal illness. You know, whatever, cancer, whatever. You're going to die in 6 months or 9 months. So, you know what? Kill Trump. I'll pay you. And kill Trump. And what are they going to do to you? Because you're going to die anyway. So die as a martyr. Die as a hero. And she says, do I have any takers? Come on, I can't. Come on, contact me. Name your price. I will pay you, and let's get this man killed, assassinated. Now, she gets flooded with responses. I will, I will, I will, I will. But on top of that, others are saying, well, hold on. Let's also kill Stephen Miller because he's a Jewish Nazi. That's not what the Democrats are charging him with. Like, by the way, then another one says, why don't we just kill Elon Musk as well? Because he's such a prominent supporter of Trump. Let's kill this guy. Let's put a bounty on his head. Now, thank the Lord, the local sheriff saw this and others complained, and now she's been arrested for making a terroristic threat. But even the sheriff is saying things are out of control. There is a climate now of violence, of hatred, of fanaticism, and now an assassination culture on the left and being pushed by the Democratic Party and the media, where now people are thirsting to assassinate Trump. This is a man who they nearly killed in Butler, Pennsylvania. Within a millimeter, God spared his life. This is a man who just several months after that, another crazed leftist tried to kill him on a golf course in Florida, shooting at him. Boom, 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 boom. This is the left that practically blew off Charlie Kirk's head off. Okay, they blew Charlie Kirk's head off. They massacred Kirk. They assassinated him. They tried to assassinate Trump. And now they're saying, we missed the first 2 times. The third time is going to be the charm. And I'm telling you, this is all part of a plan. A deep state psyop. 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Another crazy day in Wisconsin. But
well, actually, it's Minnesota, but yes. Another crazy day in madness in Minneapolis is what I call it, Angelo. But please keep going.
So they're the real insurrectionists, and President Trump and the advisors are listening. And, don't forget you have the support of 85 to 90 million Americans that see the red, white, and blue as it is, and we support what he might have to do. That being said, Jeff, they went after him for everything, all the lawfare, and they really didn't have anything on him, those fake tax reports, going to Mar-a-Lago. Everything you're not supposed to do, they did to him. But he is doing the right thing. He sent Holman over there to try to, get a little negotiation before he might have to do the Insurrection Act. But let's face it, all the support he has, all the laws on the books that the Democrats and Republicans put into place in regard to immigration, in regard to ICE doing their job properly. They're not doing anything out of the scope of what is on the books. That being said, I would get Supreme Court and I would haul in our dear leader, all the mayors, all the governors, everybody who is causing and inciting an insurrection on America, but the money's outside of our country because they cannot beat us militarily, but they can beat us up in our own country like they are doing now, causing chaos, brainwashing people, paying them, putting them on the dole, doing what they're doing to keep this going, because all it is a power and money game. So that being said, have the Supreme Court justify us going in, when I say us, America, patriots going in and disrupting their plan to disrupt America. Call it an insurrection, whatever it is, and I would go in there with the Marines, not ICE, the Marines, and I would haul in Obama, the governors, everybody. In regard to that kid that got shot, having the ammo, the nurse, what a sin. His own parents begged him. They begged him not to go to those protests because they seen the writing on the wall that he was misled and brainwashed by these foolish people doing what they're doing. But President Trump and your advisors, if you're hearing me, I'm just one of 90 million people that support America. We want immigrants. I'm only third generation here. We want immigrants. Come in legal, get the illegals under control, get the criminals out, and maybe work a deal with the families that want to stay here and work and make them all legal. But what a sin what's going on. These people are misled, and patriots stand by the Trump administration. Anybody that's calling for his head and violence should be arrested ASAP.
Oh, I agree. Angelo, I completely agree. Look, it's against the law. It's unacceptable. We can't have a society where you got people everywhere calling for the president to be assassinated. I mean, this is third world barbarism. That's what this is. It's beyond primitive. It's dangerous. It's reckless. It's irresponsible. It's primitive. It's savage. There's just no other way to put it. Look, Angelo, I understand. You want to give the president as much legal support as possible to do what he needs to do. But this is the problem with the Supreme Court. And in a way, it's not a problem. They've already ruled, not once, but twice. And this is like in the last 10 years. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 13 years. But under Obama, they clearly ruled that immigration enforcement, and ICE agents deporting illegal aliens is solely the purview and the authority of the federal government. That localities, state governments, mayors, governors have no authority, power, or standing to block ICE, to obstruct ICE, to interfere with immigration enforcement. And then this was further reinforced in another Supreme Court decision. So what I'm saying is the Supreme Court has already ruled. He doesn't need to go back. Now, what I find frustrating is President Trump, to his credit, has been telling Republicans, look, we know sanctuary cities are illegal, but here's what I want you to do. Pass a law that says sanctuary cities are absolutely illegal. And if you run a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state, we're going to, 5 years, 7 years, we are going to put you in handcuffs and put you behind bars. And have the Democrats vote against it. Let them be on the record in favor of criminal, illegal, alien murderers, rapists, and gangbangers. Let them vote. By the way, we have the votes to pass it in the House, and we have the votes to pass it in the Senate. So what are they waiting for? So Trump is saying, look, if I'm going to get any support, legal support, here, give me one more arrow in my quiver. Okay? Give me one more weapon I can use. Pass a law in Congress. Pass it now, fast. Politically, it's a loser for the Democrats, so let them vote against it, and we have the votes. And I'll sign it ASAP. What is Speaker Mike Johnson doing? Mini Mike? I have no idea. What John Thune does all day, I have no clue what these people are doing all day. So if he wants to move on the legal political front, to me, let's go. Let's make it against the law passed by Congress. But to be honest, I think at this point, their obstructionism, I'm talking about Fry and Waltz, their rebellion, their insurrection, their refusal to abide by basic federal law and law enforcement. Jim in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good.
I'm an independent from I'm an independent from New Hampshire. I voted for Trump twice. I want him to see him succeed in this. But what I'm seeing is a lot of I'm more in the Tucker camp, Tulsi camp, MTG, the Rogan spear. I'm not a fan of Lindsey Graham or Stephen Miller. I think he's listening to these guys who are making his policy fail. Now, I think my whole thing is with this country, what does this lead to? It does lead to civil war. It leads to things that, you want the Insurrection Act. That's probably the worst thing that can happen. We have a young generation. They're upset. They have, everything's expensive. AI is right around the corner. They got to deal with that. Energy price, everything's expensive. Everyone's upset. This is just an ingredient for civil war. And what is civil war? Civil war is death. I could paint a picture for you, but we've seen it through history. And that's probably best case scenario. Worst case is world war. When we're dealing with that too. And that's a whole nother thing we got. So we need a stable country. I always believed united we stand. We're Americans. Okay, you have a neighbor that's a Democrat. You have a neighbor that's a Republican. Whatever you have, you still got to remember they're American. Because we're going to get to the point, they're going to look at them, we're going to kill them like we did in the Civil War. Do you want to kill these kids? Do you want to kill these children because they got brainwashed whatever way? So this is the thing. I believe the optics on this are bad. I think we have to have a compromise. My whole thing is I believe in immigration control 1,000,000%. When he closed the borders, the best thing he ever did by far. I love it. But what's happening now, I think, is divisive. Now, I like when he had empathy for Renee Good and Alex because I think we shouldn't paint him as an angel or a devil. Listen, what they did was stupid, I agree, but they didn't deserve to die. That's all you do. Come out, agree with that as a country. It's about principle. It's not about party. The principle is it was a bad thing. It was it should have happened, but it did. Come out with that. Do it like any other investigation with a police shooting, federal shooting. Investigate it. Instead of trying to paint him as the best person ever or the worst person ever, just come to common ground on that. And that would start bringing some unity. I'm not saying we're going to get along with Democrats or Republicans and everyone's not going to get along, but we can have something where it doesn't turn into a civil war because that's where we are going. Now, another thing is, I would think where the most immigration is California, it's Texas, it's Florida. It's at hotels and it's at farms. Now, Minnesota has 200,000. They have almost 10 million in those states I just said combined. That's a giant difference. Now, instead of going there, maybe take some of the focus off of there and go to those other states and places, and then you get your policy done, and then people have approval, and then we tone the temperature down. So not only are you going to increase the popularity for your own party and Trump is I want to see him succeed. I voted for him twice. I'm an independent. I really believe in MAGA and the original principles, and I want to see that happen. But I don't want to see is this country of Americans losing to the Chinese and Russia. Because who wins in this war if we keep going down this path? If we call the J6ers domestic terrorists. We called I didn't. But, the other side called J6ers domestic terrorists. They called the COVID deniers domestic terrorists. And now we're calling Democrats domestic terrorists. We're calling the protesters. Everyone's a domestic terrorist. So now we're all animals, right? The whole country's animals. We're all going to kill each other. So who wins in this? The main thing is we lose. We all lose. China wins. Russia wins. We lose. And what does losing mean in this day and age? The fall of an empire, which we have an empire still. It's bloody. It's brutal. It's rape and murder in the streets. I'm not trying to be graphic, but that is history. And people need to step back for a minute, take the temperature down, just try to find some compromise. I'm not saying some bleeding heart liberal crap. I don't believe in that either. I'm a gun-owning American in New Hampshire. I love my right to carry. What I'm saying is people just need to try to have some common ground and focus on principle, not policy, because I really do fear for the future of this country.
Well, so do I. And that's, to be honest with you, I've been warning about civil war now for a long time. And as someone who is of Croatian descent, I wasn't born in Croatia. My parents were. But I have family there, and I know what happened in the fall of Yugoslavia. Believe me, I followed that very closely. Civil wars are the most brutal wars. The most brutal. And I covered that war as a journalist. And it has impacted me for the rest of my life. What I saw, I can never unsee. So the last thing I want is for there to be a civil war here in the United States. The problem is, here, you're just seeing it right now almost unfold in real time. You've got Tom Homan, who was sent down to make a compromise, cut a deal with Jacob Fry, that crazy mayor of Minneapolis, and Tampon Tim Walz, who was an agent of Communist China. And this is what now the offer that Tom Homan gave them. We're not going to deport most of your illegals. They're going to stay. Okay, it's a violation of Trump's campaign pledge. Fine. Okay, we're going to break the campaign pledge. So most illegals are not going to be touched. No one's going to be deported. However, you have convicted murderers, gangbangers, literally rapists and child molesters, sex predators, that you have released into the streets and into the community. And or you've got them in local and county jails. We just want those. Because more people are going to get killed. More children are going to be raped. More drugs are going to be allowed to flow. More Americans are going to die. And so we cannot allow that. We will not allow that to happen. And you're also going to have literally chaos, order, and anarchy. If you can just tell every single criminal, violent, illegal, come down to Minneapolis, come down to Minnesota, because you're not going to be touched. So we can't allow this to happen, or else the country will unravel. So we're asking now for the bare minimum. You keep 99% of your illegals, you keep. We want the bare minimum. They gave them the names. Names, crimes, pictures, everything. They said we'll be out in a week. We can do this in a week. Waltz, the middle finger. Fry, he went on X and said, I told Homan to his face, every troop must leave, every agent must leave. We do not and we will not enforce federal immigration law, period. So basically what he said, diplomatically, is what he said after the shooting of Renee Good. ICE, get the F out of Minneapolis. That's what essentially he told. So there's your common ground. Now, we can run. Okay, fine. We can turn tail and run. And what do you think is going to happen? Massachusetts and Boston has already said we're following Minneapolis. California is saying we're following Minneapolis. By the way, a lot of the illegals are in California. No, Newsom and Bass have said, if it's going to work in Minneapolis, work in Minnesota, it's going to work here. You're not taking one illegal. Chicago, Pritzker has come out, Illinois. You're not going to touch one illegal. It's a neo-confederacy. It's a neo-confederacy of states that don't want to abide by federal immigration law whatsoever. Now, do I relish using the Insurrection Act? No. Do I want to exhaust all options? Of course. But there's a certain point when you have a rebellion, and this is a rebellion, and you have an insurrection, and this is an insurrection, and you have a revolution, and this is a revolution, you got to invoke the Insurrection Act. We're dealing with evil. I'm sorry. That's just a fact. And the way to deal with evil is to crush it, not to coddle it. Final word to you, Jim.
I get your point. Trust me, 100% understand your point. I just think the tactics, and I think there needs to be, and I know what you're saying about compromise. I think that was a good move to send them in, to have a list. But I wish it was done earlier. I wish we didn't see what we saw, and I know hopeful wishing, whatever. But again, if we did the Insurrection Act, the result of this would be far more violence. And I get you saying, but it's going to. Right now, I'm driving around downtown New Hampshire and Mass. It's not going to look like this, people. I hate to tell you. So the time is now to try to do different tactics.
Well, look, we'll see what Homan can pull out of his hat. But right now, he's meeting a wall of resistance and opposition. Okay, look, let me just read this to all of you. I really appreciate Jim's call, by the way. Very thoughtful call, very compassionate call. Look, I don't want any more violence. I want the violence to end. God forbid, I don't want a civil war. The last thing I want is to see a repeat of 1861. Okay? So please don't misunderstand me in any way. But here, look. Holman met with both Mayor Fry and Governor Tampon Tim yesterday in Minnesota. And he comes out after that and he's honest. He says, look, we didn't reach agreement on many issues, but we let them know we're willing to compromise. We're willing to find common ground. This is Holman now. And Holman basically says, look, we're asking for the bare minimum. We just want the most absolutely violent, dangerous, criminal, illegal aliens. And we're giving them the names, their faces, where we think they are. Some are in these local county jails. Some are now been let loose into the public. And we'll be out of here in less than a week. Just give us the bare minimum cooperation, and we're gone. And most of the illegals get to stay, at least for now. Nothing's going to happen. So the chaos ends, the ICE deployment ends, the raids end, it all ends. And it could be done, by this Sunday, okay, by Monday morning. This was what Jacob Fry, the boy wonder, the boy mayor of Minneapolis, and by the way, he's an open admirer of Trotsky, okay? So he's a Bolshevik. He's fundamentally a Bolshevik. This is what he wrote back on X. I shared with Mr. Holman the serious negative impacts this operation, i.e. Operation Metro Surge, has had on Minneapolis and surrounding communities, as well as the strain it has placed on our local police officers. And then he goes on to say, and here it is, I also made it clear that Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration laws, and that we will remain focused on keeping our neighbors and streets safe. Now, when he says our neighbors, he means illegal aliens. That's the term. They're all saying neighbors. That means all the illegals. Streets are the neighborhoods, predominantly, say, the Somali area, where a lot of these illegals live. Okay? Now, when I saw this statement yesterday, I said, he's openly violating the law. Just in his statement, he's breaking the law. I also made it clear that Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration laws. You don't have the power to do that. It's like a mayor or a governor saying, we're not going to abide by paying income tax, federal income tax. We don't believe federal tax law applies. So we're telling our citizens, don't pay your taxes. No income, don't pay your taxes. How long do you think that mayor would be walking the streets before that person gets arrested? So what he said is illegal. It's criminal. I'm telling you, I go, just arrest his ass right now. Like, what are we waiting for? Trump then responded to Fry on Truth Social. And here's what Trump said. Okay? Trump said, his words, that just the comments that Fry had just issued, okay, these words alone, he says, quote, are a violation of the law. And he's right. Trump is right. In fact, what he said was, are a serious violation of the law. That's exactly what he said. And Trump is right. 1,000%. And then he said, quote, Fry is playing with fire. Like, knock this off. You're playing with fire. Now, look, I love Trump. Nobody loves Trump more than me, okay? I bleed MAGA. But you're starting to sound, I'm going to huff and puff and blow your house down. Like, how many times are you going to say Fry is breaking the law? How many times are you going to say they're playing with fire? You've been saying it now at least a dozen times. The threat is wearing off. They obviously don't respect you. They obviously don't fear you. They're obviously not intimidated by you or by Holman or by anybody. And you're starting to come across now as a paper tiger. I'm being very candid and very honest. If you keep threatening and you don't do anything, after a while, people don't take you seriously. Now, look, I'm sorry. This is what Trump has to do. You have to pick up the phone. Don't call the Justice Department because she's not there. You have to call your Attorney General. Call the Green Room, Fox News, not in New York, but in the Washington outlet. Okay? So get the direct number to the Green Room in the Washington office of Fox News, because that's where she is. And as she's getting her hair coiffed and her nails done and the makeup put on her for her, a millionth hit on Fox, tell her, you got to arrest Fry. You have to put out an arrest warrant for Fry for clearly breaking the law. I'm sorry. Tell your Attorney General to get off her ass and to start making arrests. Okay, we don't want to use the Insurrection Act. Don't use it then. Arrest him. Send in the federal marshals, 100, 200, 300, whatever you need, and arrest this guy. And this is insurrection. It's black letter insurrection. And set an example. Because now he's given you the middle finger. Here, mwah, kiss it. Here it is. Okay? And Waltz as well. So you extend the hand of compromise. You extend an olive branch. You say, he's betraying his campaign pledge, at least when it comes to Minnesota. Okay, I won't get all the illegals. I won't even try to get all the illegals. But please, with a cherry on top, can you give me the most violent ones? Really, the most dangerous ones. Here's the middle finger. This is what you're going to get from me. Okay, that's basically their response. Now, Jim made a point about civil war. Okay, very quick, I promise, but you have to hear this. The genie now is starting to get out of the bottle. This is no longer a contest of wills between these radical insurrectionist Democrats in Minnesota, egged on now clearly, encouraged openly by Obama and Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and AOC and the Democratic National Committee. Okay, this is all out in the open. And Waltz and Fry and Peggy Flanagan and Ilhan Omar. I'm going to get to her soon. Okay? Against President Trump and Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and the feds. The demonization that I've been talking about all morning, the color revolution that they're fomenting here, it's now spreading into the population. And shockingly, of all places, in the medical profession, doctors and nurses especially doctors who take a Hippocratic oath, first do no harm. So listen now to this, okay? A male nurse in Florida, his name is Eric Martindale. He's an anesthesiologist. Went on social media, went on Facebook and X, and said, literally, quote, I will not perform anesthesia for any surgeries or procedures for MAGA. He then writes, it is my right, it is my ethical oath, and I stand behind my education. He then goes on to say, I have the right of refusal. He says apparently he owns his own businesses. So he says, no, this is my business. Hospitals contract me. I run my own business. If I don't want to give anesthesia, forgive me, to people, because What's he going to do? Go in the parking lot? Is there a Trump bumper sticker there? What's he going to do? Every time he's got a patient, let me look up their social media. Are they pro-Trump, against Trump? Have they said anything about Trump? Like what? You're going to hire a detective to follow people around? I got somebody coming in for an operation. Got to put him to sleep. Can you tell me MAGA, not MAGA, pro-Trump, not pro-Trump? I mean, this is unbelievable. Okay, now, he claims, by the way, that his Facebook and X were hacked. They weren't hacked. He's lying because he got tremendous blowback. But the point is now, this is what's happening. Okay, it gets even worse. Okay? In Florida, now you've got nurses who are now coming out, and this is Lexi Lawler. She is a labor and delivery nurse at a Baptist Health Center in Boca Raton. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary for Trump, as you know, is pregnant with her second child. She's going to deliver, whatever, in a couple months. This is a nurse. She goes and does a video. Listen to what she says. This is a nurse. And I want to warn you, it's vile. It's really vile. Roll cut 25. A mic.
As a labor and delivery nurse, it gives me great joy to wish Caroline Leavitt a 4th degree tear. I hope that you rip from bow to stern and never normally again.
It gives me great joy to wish Caroline Leavitt a 4th degree tear. I hope you, I can't say it, I'm going to get fined, the F-bomb. I hope you blanking rip from bow to stern and never, I can't say this word, it's very crude, let me clean it up, and never defecate normally again. She's lost her job. They fired her. And I believe they've even taken her license. But this is, and she thought, this was no big deal. And it's the reaction. People saying, yeah, we need more of this. Yeah. Okay. Here's a nurse. She goes by Melinda. Another nurse. This is a nurse. This one, though, in Virginia Commonwealth University, they have a well-respected health center there. I know because Grace actually taught there for a year. So I would visit her often. It's in Richmond. Richmond, by the way, is a beautiful city. VCU is a beautiful campus, and they have a top-of-the-line health center. She's part of La Resistance to Trump. Every day, she's been putting up videos on how to poison ICE agents or hurt ICE agents or go after ICE agents. Listen now to this, okay? In this one, she's calling for people to get syringes with needles and inject ICE agents with either saline or a paralytic. In other words, a drug that will, in 4 to 6 minutes, completely paralyze your entire body. You can get somebody killed. Roll cut 20. Mike.
I thought of something good. I think it's something weird spot. Sabotage tactic, or at least scare tactic. All the medical providers, grab some syringes with needles on the end. Have them full of saline or succinylcholine, whatever. That will probably be a deterrent.
Whatever. It's going to be a deterrent, whatever. Now you think about that. She wants nurses who are operating or helping doctors operate on patients. Say, you know what? Whatever, he's in there for whatever, a colonoscopy, whatever the ICE agent's in there. Come on, stick a paralytic in there. Paralyze the guy. You could kill him. You could kill him. Now, listen to this one. This is a different TikTok post. Roll cut 20A. Mike.
Okay, for today's resistance tip, I vote, anybody got any poison ivy, poison oak in their yard? Get some of that up with gloves, obviously. Get it in some water, like a gallon of water. Get the poison ivy oak water, and I'm going to put it into a water gun. Aim for faces, hands.
Poison ivy, poison oak ivy, sprayed on their hands, sprayed on their faces. In the other one, I'm not going to bother playing because it's so sickening. In the other one, she says, hey, these ICE agents, many of them are single. Girls, wink, because she's about maybe in her 20s. You know, she's more on the young side, obviously. Like, wink, wink. Girls, get on Tinder, which is this hookup site. Hinge, which I never heard of, but apparently it's a hookup site. And pretend you're interested and get them to come to a restaurant or a bar. And then kind of, befriend them and snuggle up to them. And then when they're not looking, spike their food, spike their drinks, put in X-Lax. That's what she said, literally, X-Lax. And then you can deny it. Oh, we had a bad meal. Oh, too bad. Oh, you're in the toilet all day, all night. Too bad. Spike something that'll paralyze him temporarily. Even in some places, she said, poison him a little bit. Let him vomit all day and all night. In other words, keep him off the streets no matter how you do it. You do your bit for the resistance. You can be a hero and a martyr as well. Now, after this was exposed, they finally decided to fire her. Okay, first they put her on leave, and then they decided they had to fire her. Now, this is the medical profession. What's happening now is that ICE agents are being doxxed. Their names, their addresses, where they live, it's now being deliberately put on the internet. And the message is clear. Wink, wink. Assassinate them. Kill them. Murder them in their own homes. Threaten them to the point that they don't want to do their job. They want to stay home or quit. Listen now to this. There's an explosion in death threats. ICE agents now get death threats around the clock. Here's just one. Here's a crazed leftist leaving a sickening voicemail to an ICE officer. Listen, and by the way, calling the ICE officer a blanking murderer. Roll cut 21, Mike.
You're a fascist pig. You should kill yourself. I hope your wife dies. I hope your mom and dad die. I hope everything wrong that could go in your life happens. I hope you have the most miserable life. I hope you get hit by a bus. I hope you're paralyzed and your wife leaves you and starts getting by every day. You are a traitor to the American people, to the values that made our very country. You should kill yourself. You're disgusting. I hate you. Everyone hates you. You're a murderer, and all of your friends are murderers, and your bosses are a bunch of pedophiles. Kill yourself.
Okay? The hatred. To me, that's what stands out. It's the hatred. The dehumanization. This is no longer a fellow American. This is not even someone who works in law enforcement. No. This is an evil, murdering, genocidal monster. I want you dead. I want your parents dead. I want your children dead. I want everybody in your family dead. That's what the media and the Democrats have unleashed. I don't know how you put this kind of fanaticism and rabid hatred, how you put that back in the bottle. And that's why, whether you want to use the Insurrection Act or not, the administration now has to win the PR war. They have to get back on the offensive. They have to start shaming and calling out the Democrats and the media for creating this climate of hatred, hysteria, and fear. Because I'm telling you, Jim is right. This doesn't end well. It's a train going one way and a train going the opposite way, and they're on the track, the same track, and they're both going at 100 miles an hour. You can see how this is going to end. George in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for taking the call.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I mean,
George, it sounds like that's Waltz's or Fry's dog you have back there. It's like one of those dogs at these riots in Minnesota. But anyway, keep going, George.
Yeah, real quick. So basically, the only difference that I would throw or suggest that Trump or the administration is, just defunding Minnesota, just in general. I mean, it's pretty obvious that it needs to be, the anxiety and the anger needs to be toned down. But the Insurrection Act, I mean, fine. But I mean, again, it's the same. We've seen this play out before. To me, this is similar to what COVID was. And now the media is taking the PR end with these fanatics and anarchists just to basically make most Americans' lives miserable. The rule of law needs to be enforced, and that's how I'd play it. Maybe a fireside chat would work, and just plainly state what the objectives are.
Oh, I'm with you, George. Listen. A fireside chat, maybe a couple of fireside chats, address the nation, and cut the federal funding. If he doesn't want to invoke the Insurrection Act, okay. You have other tools in the arsenal, in the toolbox. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mary in Boston. Thanks for holding, Mary, and welcome.
Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hi. I was just calling because I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for like 30 years. What's happening in the healthcare doesn't surprise me. It stemmed from during COVID. When nurses wouldn't get shots or they asked about the COVID shot, it was divided. So the whole issue of them doing this stuff with the ICE situation, dividing nurses and being, social justice warriors, that doesn't surprise me. The M&A, for example, my friend was telling me he was having a standout for the guy that was shot. So I said, Lincoln Riley was a nurse. Why wasn't anything brought up about Lincoln Riley? That was automatically shot down. So within the medical profession, there's a lot of dividing when it comes to political issues. And I took the oath. I took the, Hippocratic oath. And, we're supposed to be blind when it comes to taking care of people. But now it just seems like everything has to be political in the medical field, and it's getting out of hand.
Mary, I could not agree with you more. I'm a huge admirer of nurses. They are not just compassionate. I think they're super compassionate human beings. And they do incredible work. Absolutely incredible work. And by the way, I think nurses are underpaid. I'm being serious. Whatever they make, they should make a lot more. And I'm just surprised this is happening. You're right. COVID, I think, was the trigger. It's becoming politicized. There's a nurses union now, what is it, over 200,000 members that came out with an official statement saying that nurses now, at least in that union, are calling for ICE to be abolished. And I'm like, what does this have to do with nursing and medical care and taking care of patients? To me, a patient is a human being. You don't judge them or don't have a political purity test applied to them. You take care of them, whether they're conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, voted for Trump, voted against Trump. Like, well, who cares? It's a human being, or she's a human being. That's all that matters. But this is what I mean, Mary. It's this, when I talk about this evil in the air, it's the polarization, the hatred, the division. We no longer forget looking at each other as fellow Americans, citizens. Now we don't even look at each other as fellow human beings. And to me, that's very scary. Now, it's not all nurses. I'm sure it's not even the majority of nurses. I know probably most nurses, find what these nurses did and what they're advocating as being absolutely despicable and disgusting, an abomination. But there's more of these social justice warrior nurses out there. And by the way, Mary, always from the side that says compassion and tolerance. So what, you want to spike the drinks of ICE agents? You want to go to a rally with a syringe and a needle and prick an ICE agent with a paralytic that could paralyze them and maybe even kill them? Or, Caroline Levitt is getting pregnant. Well, I want her to get a tear from bow to stern. So she never, ever goes to the bathroom again. You see, that's a nurse? Ay, ay, ay. Mary, final word to you.
And the other thing, too, is when the whole Black Lives Matter came about, people would wear pins. It's Pride Month. Pride Month, they want you to wear a pin. The only time the opinions matter is when it's under their ideology. If I wear a blue line pin, I am spoken to. I'm told I can't wear it. It's offensive. If you bring up President Trump facts when he got shot, I was disgusted. I went into work that night, and when President Trump got shot, I was in tears. I said, we almost lost the president. Regardless of what you believe in, you have to respect the office. I never wished bad upon Joe Biden. He did stupid things, but you respect the office. And to see nurses go to the level of being like, well, he deserved it, or, it was on him. It made me sad because this isn't what America is. This isn't what people fought for. This isn't what you go and be a nurse for. It doesn't matter if you're pink, yellow, blue, gray. Doesn't matter. We're here to take care of people and do basically God's work that people don't want to do.
Amen. Amen. Mary, that's disturbing. I didn't know it was that widespread. I knew there were problems, but I didn't know it was that widespread. That has no place in any profession, but especially the medical nursing profession. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. I want to read to you a text that I got because it is extremely profound and it explains so much of what is happening, not just in Minneapolis, obviously, in Minnesota, but really now in blue states and in the Democratic Party and in our country overall. And it's from 603. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man 70470. Jeff, I wish I could say that what we're seeing in Minneapolis is a surprise to me, but it's not. And here's why. In August 2020, John Podesta, and by the way, he was one of Obama's top political operatives, okay, very close to both Hillary and Obama. So you don't get closer to these two than John Podesta. John Podesta, in August of 2020, penned a 22-page article in the New York Times. And it was entitled, Preventing a Disruptive Presidential Election and Transition. Now, this is the important part. The article is essentially a war game, a master strategy that lays out various scenarios and strategies if Trump was ever to be reelected president again. In fact, it's now become commonly known as the Podesta Plan. The article is a blueprint and a roadmap on how to carry out a quote-unquote color revolution in the United States to overthrow an inevitable Trump administration. Because Podesta knew that the deportations of illegal aliens was a seminal issue that Trump ran on, The article not only predicted the likelihood of a shooting taking place related to deportations, but also the need for such an incident, so they would have a hot topic issue to capitalize on to stoke and inflame the left into rising up nationally against Trump. They are now putting the Podesta plan into action, and it is being followed to a T. Anyone who has read the plan recognizes what they're seeing. Bingo. Podesta clearly laid out, and you're seeing it, this is exactly according to his plan, everything that's happening. And they said, for this to work, we need a dead body. We need, if not one, preferably multiple dead bodies. And then we'll turn these bodies into martyrs, into heroes. And then we can activate our organizers, our funding, our infrastructure, and we can go out and take it to the streets. And once it goes to the streets, our media allies will come to our help. They'll come to our aid, and we can then delegitimize, discredit, vilify Trump, demonize him to such an extent that the public will be thirsting to overthrow him and his entire administration. In other words, blow up his presidency. That's what we're watching. And one of the key players, and this is, to me, this is diabolical, is Elon, some people did something, Omar. Ilhan Omar has been on the front line executing the Podesta plan. She's been lying about ICE. She relentlessly calls them Nazis, Gestapo. She's been calling for the violent overthrow of the Trump administration. She is calling for ICE to be abolished. She is the point of the spear for all of those agitators on the streets in Minneapolis. And I believe she staged an incident. You want my honest opinion? I think I'm with President Trump on this 1,000%. I believe she staged that attack on her. And so, with the national spotlight on her, on the massive fraud being conducted by her and her Democrat operative husband, over $30 million in wealth overnight in 1 year. They found a winery worth $5 million. I'm telling you, it hasn't made a bottle of wine. It hasn't sold a bottle of wine. And you're $5 million for a non-existent winery? They were laundering money. They were using it as a shell company to launder money. It's so obvious. So, with Trump saying she's being actively investigated by the Department of Justice, with now even the media sensing this is a huge scandal, and with all of these unpleasant truths about her coming up, all of a sudden, she goes into a room in front of her supporters as she's calling for ICE to be abolished. Some crazy 55-year-old man, out of the blue with a syringe, sprays her with a liquid. Roll cut 18, Mike.
Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. I don't know.
Oh my God! Oh my God! He sprayed something on her.
I need a napkin to know nothing is wrong. No, we will continue.
No. Ilhan, you need to go get.
No, we will continue this. I'm not going to get away with it. You need to go get checked.
Okay, now, so he's a crazy guy. He looks insane, by the way. And it's a syringe, and he throws this, sprays this liquid on her. And it reeks. It really smells. And so her security team are saying, you got to get out of here. At a bare minimum, you got to wash it off. You got to wash it off. You got to go to the hospital. You have no idea what he sprayed you with, and B, what's it laced with. Like I mean, it could burn you, it could be poison, it could be God knows what it could be, okay? No. Ilhan Omar says, I'm not going to let this effing a-hole, I have to clean it up. I mean, she's got a dirty mouth. This effing a-hole get away with this. I want to speak. I want to finish my speech. And she insists, I want to finish my speech. Now, let me ask you, if you're covered in some foreign substance that some political enemy allegedly sprayed on you, wouldn't your first reaction, like, A, get it off of me, like, at minimum, and B, let's go to the hospital? Because, I don't know, it may burn my face off, call me crazy. That's what I would do. That's what Sandy would do. Mike said that's what he would do. That's what I think most normal people would do. No, not her. She continues yakking. She's giving her speech. A council member, Minnesota council member, was there. She said that it reeked so bad that she had to rush outside and she vomited. That's how bad the smell was. But Ilhan Omar, that was no problem. It turns out it was apple cider vinegar that was used. Apple cider vinegar. In other words, it's completely harmless. I mean, you smell bad. It's a horrible smell. Okay, it's a stench. It stinks. But, it doesn't, there's no harm. There's no danger. It doesn't do anything. How did she know that? How did she know that? And then, right away, she holds a press conference afterwards. Trump did this to me. He wants me dead. He wants to kill me. This is because of him. Now she's the victim. Now this Somali pirate is the victim. And by the way, as all this took place, Ilhan Omar's so-called $5 million winery vanishes without a trace. It's gone. I'm telling you, it's gone. The license, gone. The registration for the business, gone. There's no footprint, no website. It's all gone. It's like it never existed. I'm telling you it was staged. I'm telling you it was staged. Okay? That's just my honest opinion. And so I want to ask you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Representative Ilhan Omar did not stop to seek medical attention or wash off a quote-unquote unknown substance sprayed on her during a speech. Did she know about it beforehand? A, yes. B, no. I am a yes all the way, but I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn is in national ER, or you can vote on X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, 617-266-6868. Very quickly, this is from 781 regarding that, to me, clearly phony attack on Ilhan Omar. Anyway, I think it was staged, just my opinion. Jeff, it was an unknown chemical attack. The room should have been cleared, yet she had no fear whatsoever. Staged. Oh, yeah, to me, it screams staged. And just from this point forward, if you don't mind, the great Kuhner Country audience, I like to go, Elon, some people did something. Omar, because that's what she said about the victims of 9/11, the 9/11 attacks. From this point forward, my new line for her is going to be, Elon, some people sprayed something. Because she is such a freaking fraud. It's unbelievable. Ken in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Great show.
Thank you, Ken.
You went through so many things, and let me also advise people who you were just listening to the audio, these despicable people, go onto YouTube and see their faces. There's nothing more than the same. They're captured by the devil. Now, you need to find solutions, Jeff. This all is centered around Minnesota Ice Watch, which the two members who died were part of Minnesota Ice Watch. Who's the primary funder of Minnesota Ice Watch? Well, that happens to be Neville Roy Stingham. Grew up in Middletown, Connecticut. He's holed up now in Shanghai. What we are witnessing is the biggest proxy war in the history of the world between the Trump administration and the CCP being played out to try to destroy America. Now, people won't believe this, but 10 years ago, what was the probability of our nation falling apart compared to where it is tomorrow, right now? Guess what? It was higher 10 years ago. We've dodged the bullet so many times you can't imagine it. We can dodge it again. Here's a simple example. Use the Martin Luther King principle. Literally, this would stop with the normies, right? Now, if you had 12 people standing in front of an ice force, simply singing, "We shall overcome." Any of them get hurt or killed, this is over.
Ken, you're dead on. You're dead on. If this was if they were really interested in genuine non-violent protest, non-violent civil disobedience, and they do exactly as you said, imitating Martin Luther King, and one ICE agent touches a hair on their head, this thing is over. The problem is it's the exact opposite. It's not nonviolent. It's very violent, and it's not a protest. It's an insurrection. As I said earlier, it's almost like a military style operation. It's a color coded revolution. That's what we're watching. And I think you're very perceptive when you say Singman is funding this. He's an agent of China. Waltz is helping to mastermind this. He's an agent of China. No, the Chinese want to see anarchy and chaos on our streets. They're making their play to destroy America from within. And that's why I'm telling President Trump, this is not just a political problem for you now. This is a national security threat. And it's got to be dealt with and treated that way. Ken, great call. Marlene in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Marlene, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Marlene.
You said Supreme Court already have two decisions.
Yes.
On to do this. President Trump used the law. Use the law. You didn't even have to do insurrection, nothing. Use the law. And also, I'm suggesting make the illegals that have been here 20, 15, 10 years, make them legal before the midterm.
Well, you're saying what? You want Trump to pass an amnesty?
Yes. Make them before the midterm. They've been here 20 years, 15, 10 years. Make them legal.
And you're saying you think they'll be grateful to Trump and then they'll vote Trump or they'll vote Republican?
Yes, there's hope. There's hope there. It changes the atmosphere. It changes from, hey, you're doing all this to illegals. No, he's not. If any of those illegals have any criminality, do not make them legal. I'm just saying the illegals that have been here doing the work and so forth, that.
Marlene, I got to tell you, I don't think they would vote for Trump, even if he could give them an amnesty. By the way, Republicans wouldn't back it. And I think his base would oppose. In fact, I'm positive his base would oppose it. So I don't even know if it's politically feasible, or doable. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, I'm not so sure, Marlene, that they would, that they would reward him with their support, because a lot of them are very dependent on government handouts. And the party of big government, that's the Democrats, not the Republicans. So I think it would be illegal to give them amnesty. I think it would blow up his base.